We're live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Mahone Bay Town Council. The life of our council is getting shorter every week as we approach the election. So hopefully our citizens will all set their mind and to get involved and to vote for the candidates of their choice on that day. Councillors, we also have the people at home, and we welcome them to join us. There will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for persons who may be watching on YouTube to ask a question. And would welcome Linda Wright from Area with us. And Linda will be speaking to one of the items on the agenda for tonight. And you have the agenda, councillors, that was emailed to you. What is your wish for the agenda?
Prove it as presented, your worship.
Seconded by Councillor Carver. On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried. Agenda is accepted as presented. And next we have the minutes of the regular meeting of September the 8th.
I'll move they be accepted as circulated.
Mr. Hyde, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I wasn't on the minutes though. My apologies. Getting my hand up there. I just wanted to be sure to relay the regrets from Councillor O'Neill tonight.
Yes. Yeah, I've already let Council know that Councillor O'Neill was not able to join us tonight.
Just want to get it in the official record. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Carver, you've moved that the minutes be accepted as presented.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Noss, on the question, all in favor? Motion's carried. Let's go to delegations and individuals. Linda Wright with the Area Group. Area, of course, is the organization that manages our wind farm and some other projects the town's involved in. And Linda is going to talk with us about the heat pump option made easy program that is ready to launch. Linda?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council for your time this evening. It is my great pleasure to come to you tonight and tell you that we are ready to launch this new and exciting program to our customers. I want to share my screen with you, so I'm hoping that you can see this. I've got a very busy screen, clearly. There we go. So the heat pump program, heat pump options made easy. So for short, we call it the Home program. Stay tuned, there will be a commercial program coming out later, but for now we're focusing on the Home program. As part of our decarbonization efforts, the town and area conducted a, conducted a literature review and some focus group sessions in the winter with residents of Mahone Bay, and with the help of our marketing and research firm, Think Well Shift. One of the topics that we explored was the topic of home heating. And we explored that topic in order to understand the barriers as well as the motivations for conversion to heat pumps. We found a number of top barriers. The four that I mentioned here is the most common barriers for people. Upfront costs, as you know, that heat pumps can be quite expensive, and not everyone has that upfront cash to invest. Combine that with a lack of knowledge. It takes quite a lot of time to investigate, compare different models, and then is it suited for your home or not? Contractor management is quite a struggle as well. People don't have the time today, excuse me, to vet contractors and make sure that they contracting with the right people. And then lastly, this technology risk. There's a risk that after you've done all this work, the technology still doesn't perform the way you wish. So in our research, the conclusion that we came to is that a one-stop shop approach was the most effective. And I'll tell you why. We we compared 6 leading heat pump programs across North America. And the 2 most successful heat pump programs was actually closer to home in New Brunswick. And we used those models and compared them with the current models in Nova Scotia, and they are much more successful than the other program in Nova Scotia. These programs in New Brunswick addresses all the barriers that I've mentioned here on top, and we believe, therefore, that is why they're so successful. So armed with that information and knowledge, area and the town embarked on a RFP process for financial services to bring the financing portion into this program, as well as administrator. Initially, we were looking for someone that can administer this program and work with our customers hand in hand to get them to into a new heat pump. Credit Union Atlantic, or as they now prefer to be called, the CUA, had the most competitive bid, offering us very competitive interest rates and an extended amortization period, which results in a very competitive and affordable monthly payment to our customers. They were the clear winners in that RFP. When we had that done, we decided it was time to look for an administrator and RFP for that service. And in the mix of bids that we received for the program administrator, there was a bid from Atlantic Heating and Cooling, offering not only the administrative services, but a one-stop shop with everything included, from the supply and installation of heat pumps to the maintenance and the customer care. When we looked at Atlantic Heating and Cooling, they are actually the company that administers the 2 heat pump programs in New Brunswick. They have great experience and reputation in those territories, and we would struggle to find references as many as they can give us through the heat pump programs that they're already running. To date, they've installed more than 15,000 heat pumps. That's quite an experience, and they have all the systems in place. Their staff are trained. They have no setup costs. They're ready to roll. So as soon as we are ready, Atlantic Heating and Cooling can get the job done for us. With this one-stop shop solution, we believe we have streamlined the process for our customers, addressing all the barriers of upfront costs, the lack of knowledge, the contractor and technology. We have gone to the experts, the leading installations supplier in New Brunswick and now in Nova Scotia. And it's not just a small or a short-term focus. We are focusing on the long term, taking our customers through the whole journey, from installation all the way to maintenance till the end of the contract. We believe that the town has selected these contractors to deliver a superior program where everything is included and the customer pays one monthly fee, everything else is taken care of. So how will our customers know about this program? On October 1st, we are launching this program publicly with ambassador engagement. We have an ambassador in Mahone Bay that will be going door to door, talking to people about the heat pump program, addressing questions, and even going so far as to help them get in contact with the administrator if that's what they need. We have a dedicated telephone line for them, as well as a website that will be launched on the 1st of October. So whether they want to apply online or over the phone or with the ambassador, their help is there for our customers. To complement the ambassador engagement, we will also have printed and digital campaigns. We will be telling our customers about it in the Mahone Bay newsletter. We will also be using bill stuffers and posters around town. So everywhere we can tell people about our heat pump program, really we are going to make sure they know about this. And I've left the last bit or the best bit for last. Our heat pump program will start at $53 per month. That $53 will take care of everything, as I mentioned before, the installation, so it's your hardware, installation, as well as maintenance in year 1, 3, 5, and 9. With the maintenance package, there is cleaning that they will be doing, making sure that that heat pump for the life of the contract runs effectively. And I have just a short promotional video that I would like to share. We will share this on social media as well, but just to get you a bit excited. Sorry. So that is, in a nutshell, our heat pump program. Just want to remind you, it's a dedicated telephone line, one-stop shop. The customer phones that one telephone number or click on the website, and every step of the way they will be taken care of. Thank you very much. And if there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to take them now.
Thank you, Linda. Counsel? Councillor Carver, hesitatingly?
Well, I thought you had asked somebody else to speak. Lenta, will the consumer have a choice of brand of heat pump, or is it a standard brand that Atlantic Heating and Cooling uses?
Great question. Thank you, Councillor. We have 2 brands of heat pumps that our contractor is suggesting to us, the brands that they have exposure to and confidence in. There is a Fujitsu brand and a Gree. Gree is not as well known maybe in most households here in Canada, but it is a big brand in the rest of the world. They're actually one of the leading brands in the rest of the world.
And I have a second question, which is how long does the contract run? How long would I be paying $53 a month?
So it would be a 10-year contract. The $53 is for a 10-year contract.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Councillor Bain?
Yeah, Letta, I'm going to make the same comments that I made you before, that about the, you know, the emphasis on heat. It also cools, which I think is very important for people. And the other comment I had made, how much these air conditioners weigh that fit in windows. And I think for a lot of seniors, it would be nice just to eliminate those things if they were looking for air conditioning. The heat pump is certainly a very comfortable and easy way to go when you get into those days of summer, and it's quiet. And but anyway, just a comment.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bain. Councillor Fee?
I think this is going to be very successful. And I guess even more importantly for the town, this is part of our grow the load strategy. I think, Dylan, this initiative was well financed in our budget, and so October 1st, can't wait. I think there'll be a great take rate. I was thinking about it personally. Like, I would lose my mind trying to figure out which vendor to buy it from and what box to buy, which manufacturer. So taking all of that decision making away is I personally would view that as a real positive. So I just keep buying the exact same model of car every 5 years since I was 18. So I'm not big into huge changes. So thank you very much for taking all that pain away.
Yes, it's been a great effort from the town, and thank you so much for that vote of confidence. That is the whole aim, is to take all of that pain away. And we saw the success that New Brunswick has with this program, if we compare it to the other programs, is because they take all of that pain away. You make one phone call or you click once and you're taken care of. Thank you, Councillor.
If I could, Linda, the Atlantic Heating and Cooling are the people who provide, install, maintain the heat pump. They will also come to your house up front and look at the situation that you have and estimate if it would be worthwhile for you to have a heat pump, and also would it be the best arrangement. The finance for it is done through CUA as an independent financial organization. And perhaps, Mr. Hyde, you could consider this as well, but what is the financial implication to the town of Mahone Bay for any citizen who chooses to take advantage of this program? The financial agreement is with CUA, between CUA and the individual. If for whatever reason the individual should default, it's an issue that CUA would deal with, not the town.
Yes, that's correct.
So it's a zero risk scenario for the citizens of the town unless they choose to take advantage of it.
Yeah, as Joe noted, you know, we have, with Lenta's assistance and working with area, we have expended some cost to get to the point that we're at.
Yep.
But now that the program has been set, it's been designed such that the town isn't taking on that risk.
Yep.
And Lenta, feel
Okay.
free to add anything to that explanation.
If I may, I just wanted to add that yes, there was a cost, as Dylan said, in the budget we have created for the marketing efforts of this, but it's not just for the heat pumps. That budget was actually split three ways. So we will be talking about other initiatives as well. Just to keep that in mind, it's not just heat pumps for the marketing exercise, but other initiatives as well.
Thank you. Richard, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just a quick question. When Atlantic Heating and Cooling comes to your house, will they give you a cost as to what it would cost if you wanted to do it on your own financing as to what it would cost to put the unit in? Or or is this just going to be exclusively through the CUA?
So they will look after you no matter what. If you decide to contract with them directly, then yes, there is an opportunity for that. However, we have created a package where we take care of the whole term of the contract with you. So that package includes the maintenance and the cleaning. People forget that these units need to be maintained and cleaned, and someone needs to look at them. With this contract or this program, Atlantic Heating and Cooling will be contacting you as a consumer to say, hey, it's time for your, your 2-year clean or maintenance. Please, can we schedule that? People forget. People don't have the time to remember this, but and that's the reason why we enlisted the help of the experts, really.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No. Okay. Lenta, thank you very much for coming in to join us tonight electronically and sharing this very exciting and interesting program with us and through the media with people at home as well. Looking forward to the October 1st startup.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and to bring this great program to Mahone Bay.
Thank you, Lenta.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Well, let's go on to item 4, correspondence. We've got 2 action items. The first is a request from Jeff Frampton. It's in your agenda package.
Mayor, I'd move that council directs staff to review Mr. Frampton's request and report back to council at a later date with some discussion points of whether that request can be facilitated.
And what the cost might be. Counselor now seconds it. All in favor? Motion's carried. Good one. Okay, let's go to Kristen Martell's funding request.
Mayor, I just had a question on that item. Within our grant appropriation, I believe there was originally funding for the Mahone Bay Music Association in the original allocation of
I
funds.
believe you are correct.
And I'm wondering, it strikes me that given that that group wasn't able to put on their events this calendar year for obvious reasons, if maybe a portion of that allocation could be directed to Ms. Martell's initiative. And if that's possible, I would recommend I'd move that a $300 allocation be provided for that musical event, as I think it's in the same spirit as the original grant.
I'll second that.
Counselor Carver seconds it. CAO?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the status of the music association. I don't believe they have had any shows, and yet they have been in contact with staff and did make some bookings of the bandstand for September and October. So I don't know if what happened to that. I have no idea whether their grant was issued or not. But in any case, I think this motion should go ahead, and then we'll investigate. I mean, if they did receive a grant, didn't do anything, it'll be towards next year, or they'll have to pay it back. So I think you should let this motion go through, and I'll investigate the status of the Mahone Bay Music Association's planned shows. I'm not sure what happened.
All right. You've heard the motion. On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Everybody show up and sing along. Next, we have information items. 4 of them.
Motion to receive and file the information items, Your Worship.
Seconded by Councillor Bain. On the question, I would note that the September 8th Monday memo from NSFM references the regional meetings, and tomorrow between 2 and 4, the meeting of the South Shore municipalities, and they include HRM in that. It'll take place on Zoom. If you registered, you'll have a Zoom link, but I can send you the one that I have if anyone hasn't registered but is interested in joining the discussions. Other than that, anything else on the question? All in favor? Motion's carried. The information is filed. Let's go to staff reports. Comments or questions?
The first one's the monthly report to council. This one is fully updated. It's back up to 40 pages of updated information. If you have any questions, I'll put it up on the screen.
This report, it gets longer all the time. Councillor Carver.
As usual, I have several questions.
Good.
In the assignment section, the first section, I'm curious why there is such a delay with the Pro Kids. This is item number 1, the Pro Kids issue that has gone to the District of Lunenburg. Why it's been on this list for at least a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good question, to be honest. So this was followed up at the staff level with the District of Lunenburg, originally with Trudy, and she's gone off to the municipality of Shelburne now. I think it's been with 3 different staff people. When COVID struck, we were thinking we might get an answer before budget, but to be honest, I think it would probably be helpful if council were to direct staff to put a letter through that the mayor could sign, perhaps move to the council at MODL to say, what we're really looking at here is just to be able to partner with you. We're not asking you to take on costs on behalf of our residents, because I've been over it so many times with different staff explaining what we are looking for. And, as far as I've been able to understand, there's some resistance to the idea that by asking them to administer a program and just treat our residents the same way as they would treat their residents, they are not necessarily protecting what they feel is their, their residents' entitlement to the program. And I think that has to do with the funds that are collected on a charitable basis or provided from the United Way that currently they go to MODL residents. So yeah, I guess there's two options. Either we set up our own program, council can direct staff to get the cost of into our budget for consideration, or write to MODL and ask them to take a look at it at the council level and maybe give a push to it. Anyway, I'm very sorry this hasn't moved anywhere. It bugs me every time I put this report together.
I would be happy to make that motion to direct staff, for council to direct staff to follow up with the District of Lunenburg at a council level.
Deputy Mayor? You're on mute, sir.
Second that.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Just as for discussion, I think that the fact that they have a new director of recreation may make a difference. I don't know, but it might.
I'm sorry, Councillor Carver, what may make a difference?
The fact that there's a new director of
Oh, there,
recreation in the District of Lunenburg.
Okay. Okay, on the question. All in favor? Motion's carried. Councillor Carver, you have another point?
Oh, yes, more questions. The Asset Management Conference that's coming up is a 2-day conference, and the suggestion was that all members of council and of the Asset Management Committee consider attending. Is there any option for partial attendance? I suppose one could click in and then click out at what, but I just wanted to know if that's an option.
Yeah, my understanding is that there's only the one fee for the 2 days. So in that sense, obviously, as you say, you can attend any part of it.
Right.
But I think that the thought was to set the fee, low enough that it would be not prohibitive if someone only attended for part of the event. Now, if the town, I'm still collecting a list of people who are interested, and I certainly don't mind advocating to the organizers that if we have, 5 or more people, I think I've got 4 right now who have confirmed, then there has been discussion of kind of a group rate. The one thing that was suggested, I know, was that any number of people could obviously view the same programming together. So another option is that, at the town office, if people were, interested, it's a little bit less convenient. We could just have one membership that is used for anyone who wants to attend the sessions that way. But yeah, I think, we have the budget because we're not attending any in-person events as a council. So I would encourage you anyway.
Out of curiosity, what is the fee for the 2 days?
I should know it off the top of my head. I believe it was 145. I'll check.
Oh, that's very, very reasonable. Well, thank you for that. That's helpful. Then under the Director of Operations section, a resident has recently asked me why there couldn't be permanent speed signs. And the observation was made that there was a perception that the speed signs actually help limit the speeding, that the slower traffic was noticeable. So my question is whether we would ever consider to have permanent speed signs rather than the movable ones. That is under the Director of Operations #1.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a consideration for budget if council at any point wants to see pricing for something like that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's a cost factor, but they are, as we've seen, they do seem to be somewhat effective. I wouldn't recommend against the use of them. We've been using them. They've been, at the very least, when they are moved around, they get people's attention. I think over the long term in one location, there is a risk that they become less effective as a deterrent, but they're equally effective for collecting data, which we still use and we provide to the police, and then they can use it for enforcement.
So if we wanted to look at the cost of making that permanent, is it better to wait until budget next budget sessions, or to make a recommendation?
No,
for
I
not-
mean, in terms of the time, if you want to make a motion to direct staff to bring back the costs for budget and then council can refer it to budget, you could do that anytime and then it will just be done before budget, which is probably not unhelpful. It gives us time to prepare for it.
Well, I'm inclined to make that motion, more or less as you just said, that the council directs staff to bring back the information about cost and that it be taken to next budget discussions for the permanent speed signs.
Second that.
Second that, Councillor Now. On the question, comments?
So this is the idea here is that I think we spent about $8,000 on those two portable
Yeah.
signs. And Councilor Carver, you're sort of implying we should pick the best location and maybe install it permanently.
Yeah, that was the thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of augment the portfolio of those signs, while maybe buying another one or maybe two more.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah,
So-
I think based on the issues we've experienced with them, we would want to get a sign that's designed to be installed permanently because
Yeah.
these ones have pretty frequent maintenance issues.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so for clarification, the motion is to investigate the potential for having permanent speed signs installed in locations in town to be determined.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. On the question, all in favor? Motion's carried.
I have more. Under the service statistics,
What number is that, Councillor Carver?
it's right at the very last section, service statistics.
Okay,
Yeah. And number one, the comment about bylaw enforcement, so I must have missed something. I wasn't aware that we weren't having any bylaw or parking enforcement due to the pandemic. What was the rationale there?
Mr. Hyde?
Yeah, sorry. So, I mean, I think there's a couple of different things.
I must
going-
say, I'm getting a signal on my screen that's saying bad internet connection. And every once in a while, people are freezing up, and that's very unusual. So we might be experiencing a little bit of that.
I think if you can hear me, there are two things at play, and Maureen may want to add to this comment as well. But obviously, the town, in terms of the busyness, the festivals, which is our primary time for parking enforcement activities, not as much the case this year, and people are, choosing to come out to Mahone Bay, and certainly, want to be encouraged in that. Ultimately, though, this is originally a safety consideration in terms of interactions with people. Yeah, Mo, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that's about it. It is something that we discuss on a fairly regular basis. At what point is the time that there's a balance? We have someone out there interacting with people on the street, standing beside each other on a sidewalk, a crowded area. What's the time that's worth bringing that in, and how does that best fit with the economic situation in Mahone Bay? What do we do? Is the town busy enough that we're encountering the parking issues that would make it a good risk to put him out on the street again, looking at parking?
And I guess the other notes there indicate that he's been diverted to a number of other enforcement issues, some of which have been maybe a little bit more lately. And even that, we're trying to be nuanced to understand the business community is trying to get by in a difficult year.
So he is still in town on a regular basis.
Okay. Are there any of those other issues, the enforcement calls, that you're able to give any more detail about?
Not really. All we can do is give you a sense of what the issues were, and other than that, it's a private matter really between the person that made the call and the bylaw enforcement officer, and the bylaw enforcement officer and the person that he then discussed with.
Think of it like that spreadsheet the RCMP give us where they say there's been 16 of this or 12 of that.
Right.
Yeah. I also want to say in the service statistics, appreciations for having arranged to put in the number of households with the code red. I find that really interesting and useful information to know how many households are on the code red. And one last question in the strategic plan under the economic development section, and I think I may have asked this before, but it's gone over my head. What is the Lunenburg County Economic Development Group?
Yeah, well, this is kind of one where it's like the name doesn't appear anywhere except in internal documentation. What that is an internal staff working group of economic development officers for the different municipal units in the county, or in the case of the units that don't have someone, whoever's side of the desk it's on, which in our case is Maureen. So it's a working group at the staff level of municipal staff.
Okay, staff level. Thank you very much. That's the end of my questions.
Madame? Bon, merci. Anyone else have a question or comment?
Mary,
Councillor
just two brief ones. Under the transportation implementation of the transportation plan, I believe council will receive a report on the 13th. And will that report also include the timelines around the conversion of Cherry Lane to a one-way street? So is that?
Joe, I can answer the question, but can you help me to find where you were looking when you said under the transportation plan?
I believe it's on. It may be under the capital initiatives, Dylan. Pardon me.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It might be. I think it might be deep in the bottom of the package.
Okay, yeah, I went to the one under the strategic plan, but a couple of things appear in more than one place because they are budget initiatives and strategic initiatives.
Right. I think it's under the capital. I'm just kind of curious about the time that for the folks that are living on Cherry Lane. I think there is. I think they just need. There's an expectation that since council's already moved that item forward, we're requesting the Department of Transportation to ratify it. That would actually get done this calendar year. I just want to make sure that we're on track for that.
Yeah, I would like to say that we are. I guess what we're waiting on really is the Department of Energy and Mines approving funding. Right. And they have, I had a conversation with them this week. The program wraps up next week on the 30th. And so they have confirmed that originally they had hoped to issue more awards as the program was going on. They have received quite a lot of eligible projects in the past 60 days or so. So they are not approving any until the 30th, at which point I think they'll probably act pretty quickly. So we'll either get a yes or a no on the funding. I would expect within the month of October. We'll have the tender. We've got it ready to issue. We'll have it out, out the door immediately. Most of this work, I think, will have no trouble unless we get an especially heavy early winter. The main thing I think will be if council, let's say that late October, we've heard no on the funding. We need to consider that some of these items may move forward as priority items. And so there will be a decision of council, if that is the case, to either say, go ahead with the whole project, or out of the identified components, which ones would happen this fall in this budget year and which ones could move to the spring. And so that would be a decision that would fall to the council at that time. And probably that will be after the last meeting of the current council. Again, that's only if we hear no. If we hear yes, we'll go right out. That's great. But I just wanted to put that out there that there may be a decision-making moment at that point.
That sounds fine. And the other item, and I know we're talking about the wayfinding signage in a few minutes, but specifically in this document, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with expectations around the town logo and Councillor Carver's initial approved motion of council from earlier in the year about the timelines and what the process would be around reevaluation of the town logo. I thought it was my expectation that that was kind of inextricably linked to the wayfinding strategy timelines. I know we're getting ready to make the award later on in the meeting, but that is fair to say that in the context of the working with the Chamber of Commerce on the wayfinding strategy, that we're still going to be reviewing the town logo item as per Councillor Carver's motion. Am I way off base by saying that, or are we all on the same page?
Well, so I've got it up on the screen here. This was the motion and the update on the motion there, because it's still an outstanding item for staff because it was set up to wait till the end of that process. So I'd say we're completely on track in the sense that this motion prescribes council to reconsider the logo issue after the wayfinding designs have been selected and after the community vision component of the plan review. And the wayfinding signs, as you note, the design would take place following the award tonight. If that will follow the kind of expected schedule, will be November when we have the council having a report to look at some designs and select some designs. And then I expect from the plan review that we are on about the same timeline, November, for presentation of consultation phase 1 report. And so, once those two things have been just checked off, essentially, then we'll have an item on an agenda saying we're pleased to say that we've done these two things as directed, and council can consider the logo in light of this vision of the community and this existing signage that's been developed. And does that change anything? Does that context help? What type of additional process might be followed at that point?
Okay, thank you, Dylan. That puts my mind at ease that we're on the right track there. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
I think it's a decision that's yet to come. Okay. Any other comments or questions on the staff report for the September?
One, Your Worship. I can't remember what section it was in, but it was in regard to the new fire station. I believe in this report, they say about the start of the groundwork come spring. I thought in the reply for from the RFP that the contractor had initially said that they would start towards late fall on getting groundwork done so that they could continue with things throughout the year.
Thank you, Richard. I wonder if there may be a lag from a previous version. I'm just trying to find it because you're right on your recollection. They will be grubbing the site probably within the month of October. They'll be doing a little bit of initial grubbing and getting started in that sense.
Sorry, I just can't remember what part it was in. I thought it was the earlier part of the report, but
yeah, so it's in the capital budget. Doesn't say anything other than awarded to Roscoe. It does come up in the strategic plan too at the beginning there under emergency services. There's nothing. Facilities. Apply doesn't say anything about the screen there.
no,
I
nothing.
recall the comment, Councillor Nab, when we were discussing with the contractors about the potential for construction. And the comment was made that we were getting later and later into the year. And if I recall, the suggestion was, well, it's not a big problem because there's a lot of the site preparation and foundation work that can be done late into the calendar year and would have things standing ready to start the actual buildup in the springtime.
Well, that was my understanding, and when we got the RFP in their proposal, that they would start doing the grubbing and the cement work before the rough weather came in. Then they could actually start construction even throughout the winter, depending on how rough a winter we have.
And you're absolutely correct. So that's something that I think for anybody who is watching this, and I unfortunately can't find it in the staff
No,
report.
I'll
Yeah,
have
but
another look and see if I can find it, and I'll just submit it to you, Dylan.
And yeah, we've been posting a little bit about the project schedule. Will be coming up on our website this week and coming out to the public this week in a mail drop. And I think it says fall winter for the site preparation. So that is definitely the
Yeah,
intention.
because I think what I saw in here said about the design work being done over the winter, and then they would start in the spring, but
I can confirm that since we've awarded it, we've already been in touch, and they're quite eager to get on site within the month of October, at least to grub it off and get started.
that's good. I know they've been in contact with some of their subcontractors from what I'm hearing, so.
Excuse me, I wonder if the reference might have been spotted. Was it in the poster that was circulated with the recently? It wasn't
Penny,
there?
you could be right in that. It could be in that poster.
Yeah, because I remember noticing that too, but
I think maybe you're right, Penny. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll check also, and I'll let you know, Dylan. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. Let's go to the election update.
So it's another progress update. Obviously, elections moving right along. As you know, we are having one now. I guess in September 8th, that news was broken. So this is just a report for information, I believe. Oh no, there is one recommendation in there. Let me bring it up on the screen, just concerning the appointment of the new ADRO.
Yeah.
1 second. Okay. So yes, we've got some confirmed candidates and
You have it, Mr.
have
Hyde?
hired the ADRO. So that's the motion up there. We have hired Joan Durnford as the town's ADRO for the 2020 election. If council would be willing to make a motion to appoint her.
Mayor, I'd move the council appoint Joan Durnford as the town of Mahone Bay's Assistant Returning Officer for the 2020 municipal election.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor seconds that. On the question for Joan Durnford's appointment, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Let's go to Wayfinding signage project update, and there is a motion in that as well. Mr. Hyde.
Sorry, I'm on my way to sharing the screen on that one as well, but just to report on it while I'm getting it up here, as we discussed briefly under the monthly report, we have reached a point with the RFP where we have a recommendation from the project team, which is the town and chamber appointed project team to recommend a particular bidder forward, and got it up on the screen now. So on the basis of the criteria provided, obviously we have a unanimous recommendation in this case, and that would be to award the wayfinding signage design contract to Pierre Taverner Design and Illustration for the sum of $5,500 plus HST. And just to remind everyone, this is the contract to produce a series of draft concepts for wayfinding signage to be installed in the downtown, and that would help to unify existing wayfinding signage in the community that's been put together over the years. It was an initiative encouraged by the chamber via letters to council back in February.
Okay.
So moved, your worship.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Carver, are you seconding?
I am seconding.
Thank you.
And
And
then
this is
I have a question.
Okay, if
Um,
you go ahead.
So of the 3 bids, 2 were essentially exactly the same at 19.5. And the third, the one that we're being recommended to accept, is totally different at
Mhm.
5,500. A huge, which is a $14,000 difference. I'd like to understand more about that huge difference and what the difference is in quality, or what the credentials, criteria. Just don't
Yeah.
understand how that decision was made. Can
Well,
somebody?
I can absolutely give, I mean, based on the evaluation criteria, obviously, these were all bids that were within the scope of what we requested in the RFP document. So once we confirmed that they were all able to deliver, they were all bidding on the same thing. Obviously, the level of effort, the hours entailed by the different companies to do that work is different. They bring different backgrounds and skill sets. This was heavily weighted on the basis of price because we have a very limited budget available for the signage. But that being said, the background references and past work for this firm were, we're present, we're reasonable. Municipal experience, a couple of different signs around the province that people would be aware of. This is a small outfit, and likely contributed to the price. Tendering during COVID is also, a little bit different because sometimes people really need the work and may be willing to price their work accordingly. So I guess what I can say is that the bid is conforming, and it certainly scores highest according to the evaluation criteria.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, I just did the same one, so.
CAO, you obviously have seen the submissions, in particular, the examples of the work supplied and the references, I presume, to other municipalities where they did similar kinds of work. And safe to say then that the quality, the uniqueness, the artistic merit, the value of what they're showing, you feel justifies and is not reflective of the price structures. i.e., we're getting full value for the money, even though it's the least expensive option.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly can speak to the value for the money. I think that is present. I probably am not, in my family at least, the most qualified to judge artistic endeavor, but I think the level of effort here is what we were looking for, and the price is within the budget.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the question? All in favor? Motion's carried. So that is the contract for, that's
That just
just for the design of the signs.
That just shows you the value of the RFP. It's kind of it's unfortunate that our procurement officer through Joint Services Board was delayed. I believe that somehow we need to get that back on the agenda. This is a good case of it illustrates that position will have paid for itself, in a couple months. I really believe that we'll get so much. Anyway, just goes to show good RFP saves you a lot of money.
Okay, let's go to the town hall renovations update. There's a motion hiding in here somewhere too.
This one was just to accept for information, which I do like to get a motion on, but obviously it is an update, probably not coming out of the blue for council members, but some information that is relatively new to being put out there in public, just to try to help people to understand the context of our current staff operations in the town hall and the building's current closure to the public, and why we feel that this is the appropriate year to engage a project that council had already planned, which does seem to be well timed to move forward this year as we had intended to do, but it is going to make for some complications around certain services being accessed from the office, especially when combined with the circumstances of COVID-19. So the motion is, as I say, for accepting for information, and there is a poster attached, which we can get some feedback on if council would have any to offer, but we would intend to use for public information hereafter. So if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Deputy Mayor,
Move that council accept this report for information.
seconded by Councillor Bain. On the question? All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay,
And David, I found the notice that Richard was referring to earlier. So it does refer to the building construction starting in the spring of 2021 in the newsletter that we've been working on. I think that, you know, building construction is starting in the spring of 2021, but following this newsletter, we're going to have a series of updates on the project. And I think it's a great opportunity to have an update about what to expect this fall. And so we'll get that out before we start actually clearing the site. And that will probably come out with a kind of a sod turning. And I know that Mr. Mayor, we're still working on the exact details, but I'll send that out by email, and hopefully we can get that ceremonial shovel that we used during the centennial back in your
There you go.
hands.
yeah. Good idea.
It-
Okay,
May I?
Councillor Carver.
Yes, as you were talking about the ceremonial shovel and ceremony, I was sort of having a mental image, and I wonder if it's possible to get that done before the current council term is over.
I think it'll probably happen next week if everybody is interested in trying to join in. I'll make that an opportunity, I guess, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it's any harm. We just have to stand further back to take a picture.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, if council members are invited to turn up, I think it would be a nice opportunity for for this council that has labored long and mightily to get this project going.
I would also hope, Councillor Nell, that your fire department members would show up, and hopefully some citizens suitably masked or 6 feet apart would show up as well.
Once the date is out, I'm sure that our members will be showing up with shovels in hand.
Expect something in the morning. Expect something in the morning, everybody.
Can we do a ceremonial backhaul or something? Or okay, solar connectivity policy.
So this,
CPL.
yeah, solar connectivity policy obviously is a policy that the town developed to ensure that our customers who take the step of producing energy for their own use would be treated fairly. It does include a number of provisions that are common to other communities where solar is used on the rooftop, essentially ensuring protection of the rest of the ratepayers. So it does prohibit financial compensation to be provided to individuals who generate solar on their rooftop, but it does allow for them to essentially offset their own energy usage and cancel out the bill that they would otherwise receive. And we've talked as a group about how that can be disadvantageous to the rest of the community, in that there are transmission costs, grid related costs, and other costs to the utility that are relatively fixed, and those are borne by the remaining consumers. That being said, the policy has an area in which it is silent, and staff have been following a practice since this policy's inception to essentially fill in the gap there in the policy. But it has been raised as a possible issue. It's not something that we're required to correct, but because our policy is silent, the board may have jurisdiction to rule on the absence of any direction in the policy. So we've looked into what our other MEUs do, the Berwick and Antigonish examples, and essentially provided a recommendation to council to do likewise. However, as this is a policy recommendation, it wouldn't take effect until our next you wouldn't be able to action this recommendation until the next meeting of council on October 13th. But if anyone has any questions on it in the meantime, would like to see any changes or additional information to come back, please let me know. And I finally got it ready to come up on the screen. Sorry it took me that long. And there it is. So the recommendation again is not for tonight, but for the 13th of October.
Councillor Feeney.
Mayor, I won't be able to support that motion on the 13th. I'm a little surprised this item is back in front of council. It was my opinion that this item was well vetted and well debated 2 years ago by council. And the policy gaps were there by design, not by omission. The council at the time reviewed this at length, and it was our opinion that with a community-owned utility, where the utility was still backstopping the decision by the individual homeowner to not shop local, not support the local utility, but in fact to go their own way, we would absolutely be there in their time of need to backstop them, make sure that they would have power connectivity whenever they needed it. But in my opinion, there's little incentive for the community and little moral obligation to financially compensate those folks for the power, the incremental power that those systems generate when they're in Florida for the winter, for example. So I believe the existing policy is written as was intended by council. If council thinks that that policy should be revisited, fair enough, but I think that conversation is long, and we would need some time for it to soak in and have a discussion and a deliberation and seek multiple perspectives on the topic. In my opinion, and I feel strongly about this, if a decision, we're doing so much to support our utility. We had a $30,000 item just a few minutes ago about growing the load so mission critical to the profitability and sustainability of the utility, that this is diametrically opposed to that strategy, in my opinion. So personally, I would view surplus power generated by an individual privately owned power source, any incremental power that is unused by the homeowner and spilled into the Mahone Bay grid, it's my perspective that should be viewed as a donation to the town and not something that we should feel any requirement or need to financially reward a homeowner for going their own way. So I know that's quite a mouthful, but I'm a little surprised that this came out of thin blue air. I'm unaware of any major deliberation or outcry from a gap in the policy, but we're here tonight and just to give everyone a heads up, I won't be supporting this on the 13th.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Now.
I have to agree with Councillor Feeney on that one. I thought we made it perfectly clear when we instituted this policy and we had a request from somebody putting solar panels on their house that we would not be purchasing excess power or supporting that in any other way. All the more power to them if they want to do that. But I don't think that we should be buying back their excess power or giving them credits for it.
Thank you. Anyone else? CAO.
I guess I'll just say I wasn't here for any of the previous debate, so apologies for not having the full context there. This has come up because staff do not have a way to respond to the question of where did we get direction to do a monthly reconciliation.
There is no direction to do that, in my opinion.
But that's what we are doing. We're doing that now.
Well, it wouldn't have come from council, as council specifically directed in the policy indicates that there is to be no monthly reconciliation. So
You might be misunderstanding Councillor Feeney. There's no way not to do one or the other. So what we're saying here is that right now, every given billing period, if excess power is generated, it's kept by the utility. So
That's right.
essentially, that's a every pay period we reconcile power used versus power generated. So that's currently the practice, is that every period we reconcile it. And what's being discussed here is whether that should be reconciled on an ongoing basis, the way that the other units are doing. If it's an intentional thing that we would do it every period, understandable. My suggestion would be that council direct staff to present the wording that would actually provide us with that direction in the policy. Because again, right now, it's a practice. It's a practice the UARB hasn't, given us direction to. It should be in the policy. We should have clarity in our policy as to how we're going to reconcile this. So it could be as simple as saying excess power generated in a given period will not be credited towards usage in future periods. That's great. But then we would have something in the policy. So that's essentially why it's here. Happy to present both options on the 13th if that's if that would be preferred. But I think the important thing is that we do close that gap so that staff understand council's intention in applying this policy.
Fair enough.
Councillor Carver.
Yes, just to clarify in my own mind, did this come up because of a question from a customer, or was it because staff were between a rock and a hard place in terms of managing this?
This is generated from an inquiry from a customer, yeah.
So I know we're going to be talking about this on the 13th, but the thing that worries me is, apart from what Councillor Feeney has said, is that if we stick with the way we're doing it, we are then we're continuing in a way that is very different from the way our partners in area are operating. And I think that can be problematic, so perhaps just a matter of optics, but it makes me uncomfortable to have that difference in practice. So I'm just throwing that out for consideration, and I'll continue to think about it.
Councillor Feeney.
Well, I appreciate the CAO putting this on the item and giving council the opportunity over the next few weeks to deliberate on this topic. And I do take the point about the requirement for clarity. I think we should close the lack of clarity that's in the policy. And if by doing so causes us other unintended consequences with the regulator, well, fair enough. I do think we have a very small utility, but are also, as we know, coming out of the audit committee meeting on Monday, we have a utility that does not compare in regards to profitability with our partners and, of course, the major players in the area. So, we're not talking apples and apples. There's rationale for why the program that Nova Scotia Power has, that the people who live in Nova Scotia Power regions benefit from. But our circumstance with our utility is very, very different. And, we're yet to really receive a significant financial benefit other than through our ability to allocate out overhead to the utility. And that's something I know as a council, we're all looking forward to happening. And we've got a budget based on this year's budget where we're really going to see that happen for the very first time in the utility's history. And so, having us turn to the back nine and finally get to the visibility on profitability for the utility, it's just not clear to me that at this time, we can be overly charitable. Anyway, we'll look forward to it on the 13th, but I think the CAO's recommendation on having multiple perspectives on the potential edits for the 13th makes good sense. And we'll talk about it again on the 13th, I guess.
Okay. CAO, could you remind us how our policy differs from Berwick and Antigonish?
Yeah, yeah, it's really just in that distinction around every billing period, every 2-month period. Uh, it's somebody who is producing energy will either have produced more than the energy that they use on their property or less than. If they use less than the energy that if they produce less than the energy that they use, then they will have to purchase the remainder from the utility. And if
Mhm.
they generate more in a given period, then they use the utility essentially absorbs the excess. Um, in our case, the practice has been that every billing period, whether they produce more or less than they need, nothing carries over to the next billing period. So the difference here between us and the other units is that it is common for that excess to be applied to a future billing period. Now, it only will ever be applied to cancel out excess usage. So it will never generate revenue. It says right here in this clause, there will be no compensation to the customer from the utility for any excess power generated. So overall time, the life of the asset, life of the home, customer's account, there will never be compensation above eliminating energy used, but it would normally, our discretion is between periods. Do we allow for it to be carried over? And as Councillor Feeney said, what isn't carried over is obviously benefiting all of the consumers of the utility. So it's not going off to any individual benefit, but it is going back to the community as a whole.
Okay, Councillor Carver?
This is a question for staff. Do we have enough information of private solar panels at the moment, solar customers, or solar panel customers? Do we have enough information from their purchase pattern that could give us an idea about how much difference it would make? I mean, how much money might be going back into our funds or not? Is there enough?
We have a very limited number of solar producers, so we can easily tell. I mean, essentially what this would be is we can't say exactly how much of what they purchase from us that we could stand to lose, but the maximum that the utility could stand to lose would be the equivalent of the power purchased by the existing producers. And I can get that amount out to you guys by email from finance. That's no problem.
Councillor Feeney?
Just by memory, I mean, we have about 800 utility customers, and we have had a business case regarding the solar garden that's trying to, thwart migration of about 35 to 40 units to solar. I mean, that's the whole premise of the solar garden business case. So you start thinking 35 to 40 units on a base of 800, it's about 5% of the load. So, I mean, this is a big deal. This is a big issue. It may not be a big issue for one individual customer in 2020, but it could be a very, very big deal if we're talking 30 or 40 customers in 2030. And so I do think that clarity of the policy is required, and I think that's this is Dylan's expertise in making sure those kinds of gaps in understanding get closed. I'm sure it will be closed, and we'll all be better off. But I do think any homeowner moving into Mahone Bay should know the rules of the road and kind of what the social covenant is with the community. In my opinion, the same way we can get cheaper products in Bridgewater than we can at the Save Easy, we shop at the Save Easy. Gas may be 2 cents a liter cheaper in Bridgewater, but we get our gas at the Irving. It's you want to live in a small town, you got to support the small town utility. And if you don't want to support the small town utility, that's okay. Like, we're going to be here for you in your time of need, but there's only so much charity, and sometimes it starts at home. Anyway, you get the point I think I'm trying to make.
Thank you. So CAO, we're going to take this item away, and we'll do a notice of motion for the next meeting on the 13th of October. And you'll provide us with a couple of options in that scenario?
Yeah, well, I mean, this report will just be on the agenda again, as is normal
Yes.
for policy, but I'll by email provide the requested financial info, and then the other option, like I say, I'm quick to recommend, but I'll confirm if my recommendation stands, is to say excess power generated in a period will not be credited towards usage in future periods. It's probably that would work just fine to provide that clarity. So we can present the two texts side by side. If it's just will and will not, that makes it really simple.
Counsel? Okay, we'll go with
Good
that
plan.
for the 13th. Okay. Thank you, CAO. The next item, COVID-19. Nothing's going on with COVID-19. I take it you all watched the Prime Minister last night and had an opportunity to hear the Bloc and the Conservative Party and the NDP this morning talking about the Liberals' approach. And it's vague. That's the only way to describe it. We're still waiting for a specific direction from the federal government. Even I was talking to a staff member who works in the programming department around CERB allocations. They're waiting to hear what the details are so they can adjust the programs. It looks like it's going to become not a CERB, but it'll be a little bit of money from this and some money from that to go with your EI. So it'll help people move back into the workforce, but not take away the benefit that they might have been enjoying under the CERB program. In Nova Scotia, nursing homes are opening up. They're talking about letting patients, residents, come out to go visit with families for the day, for the afternoon. Dr. Strang suggested this today that this will be an opportunity for the family to have Thanksgiving dinner together. Last night, the Prime Minister said you probably aren't going to get to have Thanksgiving together. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're in the Atlantic bubble. We're very fortunate. No one else is enjoying the kind of low numbers that we have. It's because of the bubble. It's because of the masks and the hand washing and all those factors play into keeping our numbers down. And if you watch on Facebook, you'll often see comments, particularly from our American friends, who are very envious of what we've got going on here in Atlantic Canada. But the second wave is underway. Quebec had 600 new cases today. One day, 600 cases. So it is starting to happen, particularly in BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. So if we can maintain and keep our borders controlled, we may just not have the same kind of an outbreak that we had the first time around. Mr. Hyde, I noticed a COVID piece on your staff reports.
Well, we always have a little update in there from each department, but the primary thing I want to emphasize now is that we have until mid next week, the end of September, still accepting applications for the property tax financing program.
Okay.
Understanding that property tax may not be the thing that is, the most difficult in people's lives. Maybe it can be a back burner consideration when you're trying to keep the lights on and everything else. But rather than letting it go and running into a tax sale, if you think there's any possibility that you're going to run into issues with this year's tax payment, if you're watching this, please contact the finance department and see if you qualify. And otherwise, they will work with you in any case.
How much of an uptake have we had, CAO?
Very limited. I guess I'll preface that by saying in communication with other units, this has been typical, but we have actually only received 3 applications to date.
Good, good. Okay, well, you know, we're surrounded by cliches, but it's like stay safe and shop local and keep your mask on. They're even suggesting they may be directing us to do that just sitting in your own house when you're with someone else. That's how difficult it's getting to be. Anyone have any questions? Councillor Bain.
Just have a comment to make about the cases that have shown up in other jurisdictions. I think we should be quite proud of the fact that the way our universities have handled it, and particularly the students, because on a percentage, we do have a high influx of students coming in. Certainly in some of the other provinces that are noted university towns, they had a problem.
I think I read today there were 4,000 students have come into Nova Scotia since the 1st of September, and there were like 8 or 10 that ended up with a problem as a result of the self-isolation and putting their time in, which is not bad out of 4,000 students. Okay, let's go to item 8, committee reports, Age-Friendly Community Committee 2020 Action Plan. Councillor Carver.
I'm looking for my mute button. Yes, thank you. The draft Age-Friendly Community Committee 2020 Action Plan was included with the package. It was meant to be with the package of the last meeting, but hadn't been included. So the recommendation from the Age-Friendly Community Committee is that this 2020 action plan be accepted by Council. So I make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Feeney seconds.
Thank you, Councillor Feeney. Councillor Feeney is also on the committee, so I appreciate that. I just want to point out before we go to the vote that this action plan has been set up in a more informative way so that the actions are actually tied to the 8 domains of the age-friendly community framework. So it helps us and other people understand the framework of the age-friendly community wide initiative. And I also just want to let Council know that the town of Mahone Bay is one of a few jurisdictions of municipalities in Nova Scotia that are recognized provincially as age-friendly communities. We can be proud of that.
Good. The efforts of you and Councillor Feeney and your whole group certainly moves us in that direction well. I noticed on your list, topics of ongoing interest, transit and transportation. You know, the Citizens for Public Transit's AGM is coming up on Saturday at the LCLC at, I think, 2 o'clock.
Yes.
So it might be of interest. You've been at those meetings before, but yeah. Okay. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Councillor Carver.
Thank you.
Let's go to Economic Development Committee. Councillor Bain.
Yeah, I hope everybody's had a chance to read what's been presented to you in a draft form. I will say that our action plan, we're meeting again on October the 8th, and there will be some confirmation in there regarding the action plan. I would also like to say that we've had a very, very active group and a lot of citizen participation. And I think that augurs well to have a committee where there's a lot of input from citizens. They emphasized that they would also like to continue to have even more input in setting agendas and getting some feedback from the community. I think that's a very healthy approach. I guess the other thing to note is the motion that was made and carried on the land on Hawthorne Hill. So I'm going to ask Dylan as to how he wants to handle that. As far as it's in the minutes as a motion, it's been being put forward a suggestion to council to make a consideration. So for those that don't have it in front of them, because unless they have separate screens, I don't know Dylan, if you can put that up on the board for people to see, please.
Yeah, it's up there, John. And like the motion that Penny made, I would say that as the person reporting as the chair of the committee, that it would be appropriate for you to make that motion, beginning from that council. I'm sorry, I normally only highlight it from the word that council, and I
Yeah.
neglected that.
Yeah, okay. You can see for your information how it came about, the motion and the seconder, but that the Economic Development Committee recommended that council investigate the viability of purchasing the available lots in Hawthorne Hill for possible development of housing to attract new residents. Now, the only comment I will make on that is the fact that it became known to some people in the community, some people on the committee, that this was being sold as a package. I believe it's the remaining 26 lots. And of course, if some of them are sold in the interim, it would alter the price of what the asking is. I can actually provide, but I can't confirm what that asking price is. If anyone thinks that's appropriate to do at this time.
So John, are you making this a motion to council now?
I'm making the motion, yes, but I just wanted a little bit of clarification in there because maybe it comes as news when they read the
Councillor
minutes.
Carver?
I'll second the motion.
I think we should let staff do the investigation before we hear any numbers.
Okay,
Yeah, staff can bring that back in their report.
And just a quick note, my take on this being is this is a request for staff to investigate purchasing a piece of property. As if this passes, the report will be in closed session.
okay. Anything else on the question? All in favor? Okay. Motion's carried. Staff will investigate the viability of purchasing it.
Mayor, I
Yes,
had
ma'am.
I had a question for the Economic Development for Councillor Bain. There was a mention in the report of insurance rates rising, and I'd just like more information about why that's happening.
I'm not
That
sure.
particular, if I may, Councillor Bain, the comment was made by the representative from the Chamber of Commerce. We had been talking about the impacts on COVID, and most of the businesses in town feel that their revenues are at a reasonable level to allow them to continue. But then the chamber offered to comment that there are other issues at play here. And there are reports of stores' insurance cost increasing rather drastically because of the incremental risk of people with COVID or contracting COVID or spreading COVID in the store. Has not been substantiated, but that's what that one was referring to. And it was a kind of an indication that COVID is not just about coughing on your neighbor. You know, there's all kinds of other peripheral issues that are impacting on businesses.
My takeaway on that was that I don't know if it had really been confirmed. It was something that he had heard or that person had heard, and it had been discussed. But there was no hard cases brought forward regarding that. So I wouldn't want anybody to get the wrong impression. That this
That's
is
right.
taking place.
But we could certainly follow up with the chamber and get an opinion.
Thank you.
Okay. Asset Management Committee, September 17th. Was a good meeting, was well attended. You have the minutes there. Does anyone have any questions?
I'll
Mr.
just
Hyde,
make
you
a-
want to offer any comments on asset management?
I'll just make a quick note there regarding our committee's next meeting, because the Asset Management Committee had intended to make a recommendation through to council with various materials that have been developed to date, which will hopefully serve as a bit of an asset management primer for new committee members, council members coming on the committee, as well as for the public. But we didn't have the materials ready in time, and that is on our end at the staff end, and I apologize to the committee and council for that. So we're going to have another meeting of the committee just prior to council's meeting on the 13th of October. And we will, I expect, have a recommendation at that time. So we'll have yet another set of minutes from the Asset Management Committee at our next council meeting, hopefully with a recommendation and some attachments, which we'll put in the package.
Okay, thank you. And finally, we have the Audit and Finance Committee draft minutes.
It's really a last but not least situation tonight.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor?
I move the council approve the 2019-20 draft financial statements from Deloitte as presented.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Now. On the question, anyone wish to comment?
I guess I'll just offer a real quick comment that this was a bit of a difficult year, obviously, for the conduct of audits. You know, there have been, because of COVID, some changes to the way that audits are working. And I guess I just think it's an appropriate moment to acknowledge that our staff were able to support this audit taking place remotely and work with our auditors on a remote basis. And the auditors note that there was great cooperation from staff in ensuring everything was prepared. And for the first time, I think in a few years, we didn't incur any additional costs or didn't require any additional assistance. And that being during a difficult year, I just thought it was worth acknowledging the effort that went into that.
Okay. Any other comments? On the question, all in favor? Motion is carried. They are accepted. Okay, no new business. No? Okay, then we will entertain a motion to end the meeting. And then as soon as we adjourn the meeting, we will entertain any questions from the floor that may be out there from citizens who've been watching online.
I move that we
Motion
adjourn
to
this
adjourn.
meeting.
Move to adjourn, seconded, all in favor? Motion's carried. Kelly, do you have any questions?
I've got it. We actually have no questions in the gallery, Your Worship.
Really?
Mhm.
All this interesting stuff.
Exactly.
My God.
Maureen, is there anybody in the gallery?
Yeah, right. Well, we just lost someone now. Right now we still have 5.
Oh, good.
When you started that sentence, we had 6, but they've been dropping off just as you
There you
guys
go.
adjourned.
Well, 5, that used to be 6. We certainly are enjoyed having you join us, and we're thankful that you took the time to do that. You can always contact Town Hall. You've got the phone number. You can call me if you like, or email me if you have any questions. Anyone on council, I'm sure, would be happy to respond to any questions you might have. With that, good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Joe, 8:35.